If you want to see how we built this nice little terranium stand here, 100% oak, stay tuned because that's what we're going to do today. Well, welcome to another Memphis Monday. Memphis Monday 172. We're going to build a terranium stand. That's basically a fish tank that doesn't have any water in it. You know, you put plants and little animals in there and stuff. They didn't even ask me to build it. I was at a friend's house, and I was actually the friend that we built the mobile kitchen island last week. And as I was walking out the door, I said, well, don't you need a new terranium stand? And they said, I guess so. So I volunteered for it because it looked like an interesting project. But we're not going to get that project done unless we do what? That's right, we need to knock off the chit-chat and get to work. You always see me chunking up this plywood with the a jigsaw. There might be some confusion on that. This is not a finished cut. This won't appear anywhere on the piece. All I'm doing is cutting the, chunking the plywood up so it's easier to handle when I put it through the a table saw. This is the little sketch of our lizard terrarium. It's going to have a front, it's going to have a door here and a drawer. Here's a cut list over here. First thing I'm doing is just building a big box. I'll tack it together and then I'll show it to you. It's 3/4 inch plywood. It's oak plywood here on the side. I got the box here glued and nailed together. What I'm doing now is putting the back on it. Right now this box is obviously very weak, but I'm going to put a 3/4 inch piece of oak plywood across the back, and that will make this thing bulletproof. Now what I've done is I've made super sure that this back is absolutely perfectly square. Okay, let's see if this scheme's going to work. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm getting it square. I'm getting it square to the back here, and I'm going to nail it down, and then I can go to the front and pull it into square on the front. So here you can see my box. The box is not square. You can see that it's out of range here, but I can square the box up by just pulling it around. Like that. Here you can see I got a little smile on this front, so I didn't tack that down. This plywood right here must be bowed out just a little bit, and so I can press that back in and then nail it. Probably can't see it from your angle, but I flipped this thing up so I can press this top down a little bit to get a brad in there. So here's our carcass. Now we need to put the trim and the legs on it. The trim on the front and back will also serve as the legs. Let me show you how that's going to work. Here's a little sketch of our project. The side trim here on the front and back will extend past the bottom and be turned into legs. And here I'm installing the legs. They kind of serve as the trim and the legs. Tell you what, I'll get this installed, and then we'll set it up on the legs and I'll show you how it all works. Well, now we can set it up and kind of get the first glimpse at the concept. And this here is the top. Go like that. And we'll install a drawer up here and either one or two doors down here. I want to use some of those 100% pull-out drawer slides we always use. And to make that happen, I need a spacer in here. See, without the spacer, these things won't work because they got to go against the wall like that. Putting the spacer in there, I can put them right up there where they need to be. This drawer is going to be really big anyway, so taking up space in this thing is no problem. So our piece will have this one large drawer up here and this cabinet down here. Now, splitting the two sections here will be this piece of trim. And interesting enough, I'll be putting it in with pocket screws. Now this horizontal piece of trim I'm putting in now, it will feel no pressure at all. It's just a gap filler between the drawers and the cabinet doors. This is just like a standard box we've made before. Tell you what, I'll go ahead and install this box. Decide to go with one big drawer instead of two small ones. And then we'll make the drawer front. Got some slightly different drawer pulls this time. Check it out. They're 100% opening, but watch this. Self-closing. Since this is basically a terrarium stand we're building, we don't want it to be too fancy, so the doors on the bottom are going to be sort of copies of these, And so I just need to ease these edges here on the router. I was worried maybe this drawer was too big, but I think it's going to work out all right. Well, here's a long view of that drawer. I mean, each door has 4 pieces, and it's backed up with a piece of oak plywood. When you go to putting these Craig screws in, these pocket screws, you want to make sure that your pieces are flush, that this is nice and flat across here, and everything's lined up. But primarily, you don't want anything to move when you put the screws in, because when you screw these things in, they have a tendency, when they start in the other piece, to roll the other piece around. So Craig sells these little clamps. You can just use regular clamps. And I sometimes put a regular clamp across there. So let's give this thing a try. Another thing, let me get the camera around there. Another thing you got to really watch out for is not to tighten these things down too tight. If you just let her rip, you can split out. You know, you gotta bring it down snug, but not too. Right there, that's perfect. See, if I kept driving that in, it was going to just tear that end grain right out. So, you know, it takes a little practice. Our doors will have this nice sheet of oak plywood on the back. It'll be applied from the back. But before we can do that, we have to round over these edges. I got my router set at the exact same height it was for the drawer front. And I took my fence off, and I'll just run it around on the inside and the outside. This is the 1/4-inch plywood we're going to back our doors up with. And I'll tell you, this is about the best looking oak plywood I've ever seen. Check it out. It is absolutely gorgeous. Then to finish the door, I just smother a little bit of glue on it. And I got to make sure I put the good side towards the good side. And I got my staple gun set at 85. I'm getting these doors on here. I put these cleats under here to hold them up while you got to drill this oak. Don't go away. I'll get these doors on here. We still have to do. We still got to do shelves on the inside. We got to do the top. So we got a lot to do yet. Well, here are our doors. Okay, now we got to work on the top, and we got to put some shelves in here. Okay, here's the scam. This is the top, and I'm going to be trying to put this 1.25 inch oak trim all around the edges. Okay, I've got to keep my gun perpendicular, keep it from blowing out. And I also got to put the brad right in the center of this trim because I'm going to be running it through the router. Well, that one went in, I think. I'm going to install this this little lip here. The Terranium sits here, and the stand they're currently having on has a lip. So I'm going to install this lip, but before I do that, I need to run it through the router. If I install this lip first, it'll make routing it real hard. Well, I went ahead and ran this thing through the router, and now I'm putting this edge on it. I had to do all the sanding and edging and stuff before I put this on, as I said. I still got to do some sanding, but might as well put it up here and see what it's going to look like. Alrighty, I changed out this handle too. Remember, we had that knob on there. I was trying to change it up a little bit and put a knob on there, but I don't think it looked right. And I got these knobs on here. Okay, the next thing we got to do is put a shelf in here. Okay, the shelf will sit on a cleat, and it's also oak. So when you open the cabinet, it just stays oak all the way down. Here I'm applying the edge treatment. Now this is 3/4 inch plywood. Since it spans 33 inches, I don't really know what they're going to put in it. I made it out of some pretty stout stuff. The shelf is held in place by these cleats. There's a cleat like this on both sides. And while the shelf itself is not adjustable, it is adjustable in the sense that if you ever needed to adjust the height of this shelf, you could take this cleat out and just move it wherever you wanted it. Okay, I think our construction is about done. We got these. It's 100% oak. There's no other wood in it. It's all oak. Even the shelf is oak. Got this oak shelf, 100% pull-out drawer, oak top with this lip on it. Okay, I think what we'll do now is I'm going to sand it all up offline, and then we'll put a little stain on it. I'm using that color called natural that we always use on this oak. And we're not going to get the same contrast we would if we were using maple, but it'll still look good, I think. I stained the shelf on both sides, of course, but this top is going to be attached on the top of the case, so I won't stain the underside. I like to use a rag whenever I'm staining, but sometimes you have to use a brush to get in the nooks and crannies. Alrighty, then I'm going to go ahead and finish staining this thing, and then I'll put it all back together and we'll take a look at it. There she is, our nice little 100% oak terranium stand. Got a removable shelf here. Self-closing door. You know, I think they'll get a lot of service out of it. Well, that does it for this Memphis Monday 172, building the terranium stand. 100% oak with the self-closing drawers. Pretty uneventful. Everything went right as planned, so no complaints there. So, I haven't figured out what we're going to do next week, but I know it's going to be exciting. So, like and tweet and share and Facebook and all that stuff you do on the internet. But most important, what? Make sure you're back here next week for another exciting Memphis Monday. Thanks for playing along.